And now, our feature presentation.
Greetings, naysayers of the internet. Welcome to Retrospective Historia, History of Transformers, a in-depth analysis retrospective on the Transformers franchise. I'll let you pause to think about what I just said. In the meantime, allow me to explain this whole thing. As you may have probably guessed, this retrospective is heavily inspired by Linkara's History of Power Rangers, but instead of copying that series, I'll be taking some influence on it and making it my own. I also like to mention that I like to do retrospective on other shows and movies. So if you like how I'm doing with Transformers, then I'll do other shows like Star Trek, Doctor Who, Fullmetal Alchemist, or Hasbro Hotel, then send me feedback in the comments. Now I got that out of the way, here are the ground rules. The first being that this retrospective is only focusing on the shows and movies. I will not be talking about the comics, games, or anything else. This is only about the Transformers TV show and films. I may mention the comics or games depending on the subject, but for now, let's get things started. Also, sign up if you want to see a retrospective on the Marvel Comics Transformers. Linkara did one on the Top 4 World series, which I highly recommend, and I'll put the link in the description. But back to the video. The Transformers started as a 1980s Japanese toy line Microman and Diaclone, giant mecha robots that can be piloted by people and turn into vehicles, which means that Japan has a thing with giant robots.
今、君の指令を待つロボットベースとダイアクロンの世界。ダイアクロン。
There was also the sub-toy line Micro Chain that not only has small vehicles that could turn into robots, but also has robots that could turn into objects like cameras or cassette tape players. Or guns. Okay. Anyway, when the Japanese toy line was founded by Hasbro toy developer Henry Ornstein at the 1983 Tokyo State Fair and then showed it to Hasbro head of research development George Stinson, they both loved the idea and rebuilt the Microman Diaclone line, to which the creative director Jay Basil has dubbed it the Transformers. With the success of the revival of the G.I. Joe toy line in 1982, Hasbro will make the same strategy as they did with G.I. Joe by not only making a toy line, but also making a comic tie-in by Marvel Comics and a 3-part animated series by Marvel Sunbro Productions to be aired in syndication. The air in syndication is just to avoid network content restrictions. Marvel's chief editor at the time, Jim Shooter, wrote a rough concept of the Transformers and then had Raya Jones O'Neill to flesh it out, as well as write the characters' names and profiles, to which Hasbro did not like, so they replaced him with Bob Buoyancy to do revisions and change names of the characters, although some names like Optimus Prime were kept in O'Neill's version, and have animations to be made by Toei, along with designs by designer Flora Dewey, to which the designs were simplified by original design by Shohei Kohira that was used in the Transformers commercials. Unlike G.I. Joe, where they waited for it to be a hit, Marvel and Hasbro already went on making 13 more episodes. And thus, on September 17, 1984, the first Transformers series, or Generation 1 by fans, was born. The series begins millions of years in space. The dramatic narration to boot.
Many millions of years ago, on the planet Cybertron, life existed. Intelligent robots that could think and feel inhabited the cities. They were called Autobots and Decepticons. But the brutal Decepticons were driven by a single goal. They set out to destroy the peace-loving Autobots. And a war between the forces of good and evil raged across Cybertron.
Although maybe we could if this damn planet stopped exploding for 2 minutes. Anyway, what the narrator is saying is that on this planet called Cybertron, the two factions, the Autobots and the Decepticons, have been on war for years now, with the Autobots getting their asses kicked by the Decepticons, along with the planet's rich energy being drained. At one abandoned building, we see 2 Autobots trying to stack out some glow sticks. The first one is Wheeljack, the Autobots' own science technician who invents a lot of tech that we see in the show. And another Autobot is Bumblebee, the team scout that will take a different role at the end of the miniseries. After Bumblebee cock out the glow sticks on Wheeljack's fugal form, which is some kind of futuristic fan, the two try to evolve in the base called Iacon, but then found by Decepticon goons and placed them into a lower ring of fire.
I fell into a burning ring of fire.
The two are able to get through the ring of fire and the Decepticon goons, but then the goons are able to turn the jets and try to shoot them, but then lose them when they got through the tunnels. After they made it through Iacon, we see the Decepticon named Soundwave disguising himself as a pole sign thing and sending his pet bird, Laserbeak, to spy on the base. Inside the base, the leader, Optimus Prime, talking to the other Autobots, Jazz, Prowl, and Trailburger, about that since the planet is completely drained of energy, they need to leave to find another planet to survive. Soundwave goes to report this to his leader, Megatron, to which Megatron commands Shockwave, his second in command, to stay behind while he goes to fight the other Autobots.
Fear not, Megatron. Cybertron shall remain as you leave it.
You just know he's just be sitting around watching intergalactic soap operas. One of his minions, Starscream, said that if he would have led the Decepticons, the Autobots would have died ages ago. But Megatron calls bullcrap on that and said he would never lead the Decepticons. And all are wondering how come Megatron did not try to kill him after implying he's gonna stab him in the back. Anyway, the Autobot ship, which doesn't have a name, but for simplicity we'll call it in the other version as the Ark, gets ready to launch. While the Decepticon ship, called the Ark, falls on ahead. Before the destination, 2 asteroids start to collide into each other and smash into smaller asteroids, which hit both the Ark and the Nemesis. Yeesh, don't you hate when that happens? One minute you're driving through space, the next you're getting hit by meteors. Fortunately, Optimus was hired by demand a laser gun so they could blast through the asteroid field, which the Collins follow. But when the Autobots find out that they're being followed, Optimus tries to lose them, but that didn't work, and Megatron orders a tractor beam on them. And the Autobots can't fire the laser gun at them due to using up all the energy at the asteroids. The Decepticons start activating a boring tube to hijack the Ark, and we see the Autobot prepare for battle, and we see the same scene repeated in the second layer. Unfortunately, during a brawl with each other, the Ark suddenly starts to lose course and crashes to a nearby planet, which of course is Earth. After a commercial break, we see that the Transformers have been offline and basically slept for 4 million years. And people say Windows 7 takes forever to reboot. However, when a nearby volcano explodes, the ship's computer, Teletran 1, activates and sends out a probe to scan Earth vehicles and also repair the bots. He starts by repairing the Decepticon Skywarp, and then Skywarp uses Teletran 1 to repair Megatron, and then they repair the other cons. One might ask why the hell is Teletran 1 is repairing the enemies. His program has been fritzing up and can't tell the difference between bots and cons ever since the crash. Also, since his main priority is when he starts up to explore and repair, it also means that he didn't think who to repair just to repair a bot. Anyway, after the cons leave the base, Megatron realizes that their planet is far away from here, but still believes that Cybertron still exists and needs to gather energy resources from the planet to get back to Cybertron so they could, you guessed it, take over the world.
Of course!
However, Starscream, being kinda stupid, starts shooting at the base, much to Megatron's refusal. What's funny is that without Starscream being all trigger happy, the Autobots would have stayed unconscious at the base. Just when he shoots at the rocks to bury the base, Optimus' body starts moving around and Talon starts repairing him. Meanwhile, the Decepticons start to build their new base of operations.
Starscream, convert the area for construction.
What about materials?
Use your imagination.
Yeah, thanks dude, that's a big help. Actually, Soundwave sees a nearby power plant and decides to end it there and sends in another tiny robot companion, Rumble, to assist Starscream. Back to the Autobots, Optimus figures that the planet is rich with energy. The Decepticons will consume all life there and need to be split up. He orders the Autobot Hound to scout the con and find where they are, and another Autobot, Cliptrooper, wants to tag along with Hound. I should note that since the show has a large cast of characters, some are from the first wave of the toy line of the first season, I'm going to be naming all of them as we see to make sure you all know who is who and which faction they're on. Back to Starscream, we see why Rumble is named Rumble. He turns his paw into the pole smasher thing and slams at the ground to create craters at the power plant. During Hound and Clipjumper scouting, the two found the Decepticon building and listen to the plan via Hound's wrist antenna. Somebody suggests that considering the energy into cubes that are called energon cubes and then store them into the new ship, but then Clipjumper decides to take the chance to snipe at Megatron, to which he missed. I said that he's recovering from being asleep for 4 million years, but from the looks of his gun, it looks more like a rocket launcher than a sniper rifle. After that's done, the two transforms have run off to Finder. However, Soundwave sends in Laserbeak to inspect who tried to shoot them. Laserbeak follows them until the two split off so that one can make it to Prime. He continues to follow Hound and sends in a missile after Clipjumper that shoots lasers. He got shut up. And then Clipjumper destroys the missile with a gas cloud. Also shut up. But then Laserbeak blasts Hound and makes him fall off a cliff. Later, Clipjumper finds Hound along with a team's medical officer, Ratchet, and a crane bot named Paul that only appears in this episode. Seriously, we don't see him in the rest of the series.
Sir, not appearing in this film.
We cut to Thundercracker and Reflector. The latter is three Decepticons that talk in unison, by something in distance. Reflector transforms into a camera to get a closer look to see if it's Autobot or Decepticon. Thundercracker reports it to Soundwave that it's an organic vehicle that Megatron says to release Ravage. We see that the vehicle has two humans who look like construction workers, coming to expect what happened at the wrecked power plant. However, Ravage, the third companion to Soundwave, that is a robot Black Panther, which I wouldn't be surprised if T'Challa built a robot panther for himself, attacks the workers and then they run off. Meanwhile, at the Ark, while Helen explains the Decepticon plan, Prime decides to go after them. We see Jazz performing a roll call.
Pow! Jailbreaker! Wheeljack! Ironhide! Mirage! Sunstreaker! Sideswipe! Autobots! Start your engines!
After that, we cut back to Soundwave reporting to Megatron that Laserbeak has found a source of energy at an ocean oil rig facility. At the facility, we see two humans, Sparkplug Wiggy and his son Spike. Yeah, if you only knew the live action movies, that's where the name Wiggy came from. And you know, the name Sparkplug is probably just a nickname due to him being a mechanic, but one wonders when he named his child Spike. Anyway, after the Decepticons enter the rig, the workers decided to throw rockets at them. They go as well as you expect, with all of them being thrown into the ocean. The Decepticons get ready to convert the oil into cubes, which they get from Soundwave. However, the Autobots appear. Oh, by the way, in this version, they could fly somehow. And I don't mean they fly like in jet forms, I mean they could fly like they're Superman. To prevent the Decepticons from stealing the oil. Also, Megatron turns into a gun. Unfortunately, the Decepticons grabbed the cubes, and not only they tore apart the facility, causing it to fall into the ocean, but they blew up the rest of the oil in order to burn the Autobots. Part 1 ends with Spike and Sparkplug trapped under iron pillars and Optimus trying to save them. Part 2 begins with Braun getting half of his arm out of some metal pillars that for some reason got his arm stuck into.
It's two things I really hate, Braun. What are they? Fire and water. Great, you're in the right place.
Yeah, water and fire don't really make good dates. After Wheelcheck and Trailbreaker take down the fire, Prime saves Spike and Sparkplug from getting them to a nearby surface. He explains to them that they're from Cybertron and they need to stop the Decepticons before they destroy Earth. And Spike and Sparkplug ask them if they can come along, but Prime says it's too dangerous. To which Sparkplug says that they know a lot about Earth cultures to teach the Autobots, and Prime accepts that. They do have a point. The Autobots know nothing about Earth or the humans when they woke up, so they need someone to guide them about the planet. After they return to the Ark, Spike writes on his journal diary, I'm not sure which one, about how awesome it is to hang out with alien robots, which it is, while Soundwave spies on him in the distance. He quickly transforms into a cassette tape and tricks Spike onto taking him to the ship. There, Spike asks Trailbreaker on how they transform. Obviously, they're not gonna talk about alien robot biology in a kids show, so he's gonna show the two other Autobots about their abilities. We've already been introduced to Hound before, but now he shows he can project all holograms of any kind. Next is Mirage, who, as the name suggests, has the ability to make himself invincible. While Hound takes Spike for a ride, Soundwave injects Ravage into Telechart 1 and gathers information on Earth's resources. When Spike comes back from the ride, he spots Soundwave and activates the alarm. Soundwave runs off, manages to escape, but Ravage is captured. However, he still has the information they want and gives it to Megatron, who learns about the Sherman Dam and how it generates a lot of energy that they could steal. Starscream says that's not enough energy, but Megatron suggests a bigger picture. Instead of stealing the energy from the dam, they will create a tidal wave, and from that wave, they will have more energy to make more cubes. As well as, killing everyone from the tidal wave, but since they're evil, who cares? Anyway, at sunrise, the Khan sends in Rumble to use his pole smashers to create a tidal wave. After the workers at the dam, who are wearing construction helmets for some reason, finds out about the rising dam, the Autobots receive a message about the situation at the dam and heads out there.
We've got to work fast.
You think the Decepticons did this?
You're too late, Prime!
Well, gee, does that answer your question, Prowl? While the bots fight the Khans, Hound goes to the Rubbing River and finds Rumble and stops him. Meanwhile, Ironhide Bumblebee trying not to have the wave enter any nearby towns, so they use a laser turret to shoot the ground to create streams. During the fight, Starscream decides to fire an energy slingshot at the generator in order to end the Autobots, but triggers a chain reaction and Megatron orders the Khans to get the cubes out. Now here comes an iconic scene where Optimus and Megatron fight each other on the dam bridge with their energy axes and mace while they exchange witty banter.
You can't stop me!
You're old, Megatron. Yesterday's model, ready for the scrap heap.
We'll see who's ready for the scrap heap!
Junk! That's what you are. Junk!
Silence!
Oh, shut up and stop making it already. However, Prime gets distracted by Spike being attacked by Rubble, so Megatron knocks him off the dam, but Josh throws in a gravity hook to which Prime catches with ease. Along with that, Spike realizes that Hound has now left the river and dives in to find out he's covered in rocks, and Spike gets him out and both came back to the surface for some air. Someone somewhere is getting off by this image. After a small montage of the Decepticons taking energy from the facility, Soundwave reveals an idea on something that will finally fill up the cube's energy up. The ruby crystals are Burma, actual rubies that contain energy inside of them. From the brief research I did, they are based on an actual ruby village located in Burma, though I don't think they have energy inside of them. And yet this is not the last time we see energy crystals in Transformers. Starscream, however, decides to be an idiot and waste some energon for test firing, so now they have 2 loads of energy to fill. Whoops. Meanwhile, Spike, Sparkplug, and Trailbreaker spies on the cons and hear about them going to their mines, as well as taking some rocket fuel. While the 3 go back to report to Prime, the group got spotted by the con, and Sparkplug radios Prime for help, to which Sideswipe and Sunstreaker joins in to shoot them away. Later in the Burma mines, the cons mines the ruby crystals, and Megatron plans on building the ultimate weapon. While he's playing around with the crystals and also laughing because everybody needs a hobby nowadays. Outside the mines, the Autobots plan to infiltrate the mining operation by having Sparkplug, who established that he knows his way into the mines somehow, and Bumblebee, since he's smallest in the group, and goes to plant a bomb that Wheeljack made to blow the cons up. After planting the bomb, the 2 are caught, and when the bots realize that they hadn't gone out yet, Prime decides to find out what's up. He uses Roller, which is a little drone cart thing that comes out of Prime's carrier. However, part 2 ends with the bomb getting off and Optimus being thrown off by the impact. Prime? I don't think that's what you meant by rollout. Our final part for the miniseries begins with the bot flip Prime back from his own position as being flipped over an 80-degree angle.
Good. Prime, can you hear me?
I feel like a Cybertronian rainbow. After finding that Roller came back from the wreckage, which, come to think of it, he doesn't do a lot in the series, really enough since he could be useful for spying on the cons and going to small places. Prime tries to transform into robot mode despite looking painful and probably not being a good idea to transform after being injured. He succeeds and realizes that, oh crap, Bumblebee and Sparkplug are still there. Along with Ironhide sporting a drill, the bots starts digging and finds the 2 of them alive and well. However, Megatron blasts a hole out of the sky so that the cons can escape with energon. Also, Simon is now Autobot in his seat. Weird. Ironhide and Blueshoot try to catch the cons, but then Scott Warp teleports behind them and blasts Ironhide. He survived, just landing on a river. They grab him and head back to the base where we hear Spike's thoughts on Optimus.
I think he'd make a neat president.
Now there's something that'll make an interesting election. Anyway, after Hal and Mirage screw around with Ravage, who's in a cage, the 2 thought of an idea to trap the Decepticons, and it's actually clever. Basically, Hal and Mirage have a conversation in front of Ravage about a rocket base close by that has enough fuel to take you not just 1 trip to Cybertron, but 2. After they leave and accidentally drop the keys to Ravage's cage, he quickly grabs the keys, which I guess he could grab a hold of those things with his paws. Then again, I have a cat that edits my videos, and escapes and gives out the information to Megatron. While there, Megatron realized that he could use the rocket fuel to fill enough energy to leave Earth. While Megatron craps on Starscream for trying to replace him as leader.
Desire to replace me as leader of the Decepticons. Mistake number 1.
Yeah, mistake number 1 is replacing as leader, which is why you still have it around. What? However, Starscream has enough of his horse club and tries to shoot him in the back. Megatron blocks and shows him that failing to kill him when he had a chance is mistake number 2. Megatron, I'm starting to think keeping Starscream around is just an excuse to please your torture interests. Anyway, back to the trip. Han sets up a hologram on the rocket base when the Decepticons charged in. The Autobots, who are disguised as scientists in lab coats, weird, takes on the cons when they enter. Like I said, it's actually clever, using their unique powers to their advantages to trap the enemies. Unfortunately, the cons trick them by sending in duplicates that break apart into scrap, spray, and junk and realize they've been had. Megatron gets exposed during the fight. The real cons have already invaded the real base. So as you could guess, the Autobots are kinda screwed, and Prime sees that as well. He decided to directly attack the Decepticons and destroy their ship before they head to Cybertron. He asks for volunteers, which of course everybody joins in. Even Spike and Sparkplug rolls out to the con base. Unfortunately, as the Autobots attack the base, the cons launch the ship, leaving the bots outside the ship, meaning they 2 are screwed again. Prime takes it well.
Megatron!
Prime borrows Sideswiped's jetpack to catch up, although since he can fly, he doesn't have a jetpack kind of performance. But they blast off Prime, of course, and he lands very hard on the ground. Seriously, how hard can Prime take? The dude has little abs of steel, just saying. However, Prime realized that Mirage is missing, and indeed, it doesn't take too long to figure out where he is. After Starscream tries to kill Megatron, again, Mirage reappears next to Starscream, having him to shoot Mirage instead of Megatron. He misses, blasting the controls and making the ship go crazy and crash back into Earth and land in the sea. Mirage escapes, being reunited with the Autobots.
We knew you were anxious to get back to Cybertron, but at least you could have waited for us.
Sorry, Prime. The ship was full.
The group celebrates and realizes that they need to fix their own ship to return home. Spike asks if he could come, but Prime said he needs his dad's permission, even though he's like in his late teens.
Can I, Dad?
Only if I can go with you.
Sure, son. You could go to an alien planet that has no air. The miniseries ends with Spike explaining that the government of the world have agreed and repays the Autobots for saving Earth. They give them enough energy to revitalize Cybertron. And also, Spike saying this will probably be the only time the world's government agree on anything. I thought that I'm sure we all need. However, we see Megatron rising to the surface for his return.
The Transformers will return after these messages. We now return to the Transformers.
The miniseries, despite some goofy bits, is a great start to the show. Looking back, it does set up things for the franchise that it's known for. Characterization is mostly non-existent. The most we got is how bonding with Strike, which gets lost when the real series starts, but I'll get to that in a minute. But with the rest, they're just stand-ins for the story, and that's fine. Since this show has a large cast, the characters stay limited with some personalities sprinkled in to get kids excited to what's next. Like I said from the beginning, because of the instant popularity, the show gained 13 more episodes, which aired on TV on a weekly basis. Although because of the weekly schedule, a lot of the episodes came out of order, which makes a lot of the scenes become confusing as hell. Fortunately, thanks to the Shout Factory DVD releases, the show are in order that they're supposed to be in. Starting things off with Transport to Oblivion. Same month after the miniseries, the Subcon ship is still underwater, but they now have added some buildings around it. The true origins of Atlantis. Megatron gets in contact with Shockwave and reports to Megatron that Cybertron is running out of energy. Who that wasn't too far by him spending 4 million years watching intergalactic soap operas. After the cons invade power stations and the bots get their asses kicked, Prime orders Bumblebee to spy on the cons, to which Spike joins in. This will lead into a major character change for Bumblebee, which we'll get into. But first, Megatron's new plan? Build a device called a space bridge and have it transport the energized cubes from Earth to Cybertron. However, when the test pod enters the bridge, which is basically a giant portal in the sky, the cubes disappear when it gets to Cybertron, meaning that they need a pilot to give it some guidance, as Megatron points out. After being Spike observed the test site, the cons spot the two and decide to have them be the test subjects. Spike tries to hold on so that he can escape, but fails when Starscream blasts him unconscious. Then Megatron alters B's memory core to lead the Autobots into a trap at a cave. It works, blasting the cave's exit and then blasting the bots as well. During the fight, Shockwave reports tell Megatron that the space bridge is about to open on his location. Desperate to get the cubes to Cybertron, Megatron orders the cons to leave and blast the cave or blast over the cave to escape, and then blast the cave again to trap the bots in. After fixing up Bumblebee's memory and Prime orders the bots to blast the caves open, showing that the rocks are made of styrofoam, the Autobots rescue Spike and forces Megatron to accidentally send him to Cybertron. This episode established two things. One is that the first season has a bit of a serialized story arc. While of course this is a show meant in the 80s meant to sell toys, there is a bit of a pattern of each arc that form episode by episode, which plot points and characters go from one to the next. The second thing that it established, and the biggest one, is Bumblebee, whose character has been shifted to a human's best friend. While we saw Spike interacting with Hound, that arc has been switched to Bumblebee as he became close friends with Spike, and it became a natural trait of his that continues on from the live action movies, even the heart of his own movie. Following the next episode, Roll For It, we see Starscream trying to lead the Decepticons, keyword being trying, and getting their ass kicked again, and then they get followed by Blue Sugar Pro.
Meanwhile, thousands of miles away,
Megatron, still on Cybertron, contacts Starscream and the others, tell them to steal an anti-mana formula from a laboratory. Know that to summon the anti-mana to start a crisis on Infinite Earths. After Megatron gets back to Earth, we cut to the laboratory, where we're introduced to Chip Chase, who's being trapped out by Bumblebee and Spike. Chip is wheelchair bound, and apparently he's a VIP for the anti-mana firm, and the professor gives him a floppy disk to study, because that totally makes sense, giving a top-secret science prep to a teenager. Admittedly, a super genius teenager, but still. After getting away from Laserbeak, Megatron decides to rush the attack so they won't get stopped by the Autobots. While Chip goes to look at the formula at his home, Blue Sugar Prowl fights off Starscream and the other cons, while Megatron breaks the lab, which he finds out that the professor has uploaded the data to someone else, which he found out that Chip has the data. Back to the fight, Prowl contacts to a nearby computer, for which Chip answers and helps him to drive a jet to fire rockets at the cons.
This makes no sense, and yet it's working.
Yeah, the cons run like hell after that. Megatron finds out who has the data and contacts the cons to head to Chip's place. Finding out that the cons are after him, he decides to destroy the floppy disk, which kind of looks like he's tearing a shred piece of paper. But even with that, the cons kidnap Spike and take him to the lab so that Megatron can read his mind for the formula. But after being distracted by the clones of Hound, Spike and Bee rescue Chip and drives off from the lab, while the bots try to take the antimana, only to have Megatron to toss an energy cube with antimana at the bot, and to which it blows up the lab. Well, then it goes the only resource to make more antimana. Fortunately, the bot survives that and heads back to the base for repairs. With the help of Chip and Wheelchair, bots defeat the cons and gets rid of the rest of the anti-mana field cubes. In the next episode, Define and Conquer, Prime gets injured from the next Decepticon attack, and Wheelchair needs to repair him by replacing a broken part with a new one. The problem is that the new part is to replace is in his old workshop on Cybertron, which is far away. Fortunately, all they need to do is grab the con's space bridge to get there, and Chip decides to come along because shut up. However, when the bots enter Cybertron and grab their passport at the workshop, Megatron orders a group of psychologists to rain acid down on them, which slowly drains them. But with Chip encouraged them to fight, they quickly stop the rain and scare off the Rainmaker. Also, a little known fact about humans. Apparently we can breathe in space, and also immune to acid. After the rest of the bots fly up the cons long enough for Optimus to get repaired, he kicks the cons' asses, and there was much rejoicing. I mean, it does make sense why this recap was short, just a run-of-the-mill filler episode so far, with the exception of the drama of Optimus Prime dying, which he didn't, and I'm sure Hasbro will never kill off Optimus Prime in the future, right? Right? Anyway, the next two episodes have more importance to the overall plot, starting with Fire in the Sky. It begins with the world having a snowstorm in the middle of July, and showing that the Decepticons are harvesting some weird energy crystal thing from the Earth's core and pumping heat energy out of them for it. After Rumble causes a collapse, they unexpectedly found a Cybertronian frozen in ice. After thawing him, Starscream recognized him from Cybertron. He goes by the name of Skyfire, and he and Starscream were explorers before the war. They found Earth before life began, but after trying to get close to the planet, the wind blew the two apart and Skyfire crashes into the Arctic. And this is where I stopped to talk about Skyfire's weird legal history and how his name wasn't Skyfire in the beginning. Like I said from the start, the Transformers toy line started out by rebranding existing toys from Japanese toys at the time And Skyfire, original name Jetfire, starting from the VF-1S Valkyrie from the anime Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, which Bandai owns the toy rights. Hasbro licensed it for the second year of the toy line, but the problem is that the Jetfire toy is owned by Bandai, the Japanese group. Linkara couldn't sell Jetfire in the Japanese market. So because of that, they can't show Jetfire in its original toy form and forced to redesign him so he doesn't look like his toy and had to change his name to Skyfire. There is some audio you can find on YouTube with his name being Jetfire before they aired in the broadcast, and in future series they kept his name Jetfire. Anyway, after reviving Skyfire, Megatron puts him on the Decepticon side. Meanwhile, the Autobots drives into the Arctic, which is a pretty long way, come to think of it. During Skyfire's fight with the Autobots, Viking Sparkplug gets trapped in the iceberg. He rescues the two, but he gets confused on what side he's on. But after realizing that clones want to kill all life, he decided to join the Autobots and toss Megatron around. Also, side note, this dude is a giant!
I'm huge!
I mean, yeah, he is a jet that carries more bots around, but it gets kind of goofy when the humans are at the same height as his hand, but look extremely gigantic compared to the rest of the Transformers. However, during a fight with the cons and covering the engine crystal lights, Skyfire crashes and the resulting avalanche covers him as well. The Autobots mourn the loss and honestly sacrifice. Farewell, Skyfire, we shall remember you! Until we come back 2 episodes later. But in the meantime, we have the next episode, SOS Dinobots. After finding some dinosaur bones inside the caverns of the base and learning more of these creatures thanks to Spike, Ratchet and Wheeljack thinks of a brilliant idea, building robot dinosaurs. And thus, the Dinobots are born.
Look at the size of those things.
Great Cybertrons.
Holy Heterodyne.
They're moving in herds. They do move in herds.
The 3 contains of their leader, Grimlock, who turns into a T-Rex, Sludge, who turns into a Brontosaurus, and Slag, that turns into a Triceratops. In recent incarnations, however, the name Slag can't be used because Slag is a British slang for slug, which Hasbro has to be careful to not to offend the UK. Then again, the UK has their own problem of saying trans rights. Anywho, after the Dinobots show off their energy blasters, they go on a rampage and Grimlock damage Telegram 1 in the process. Prime sees that the Dinobots are out of control and need to be locked up for safekeeping, which they do. However, during that time, the Decepticons attack another engine facility, but the bots need to go to stop them. But this time, it's the Autobots who get their asses kicked. Fortunately, Wheeljack made some brain mods to make the Dinobots less rampage-y. The mods work and also give them Autobots' ability to speak, though in third person caveman type talk.
Save leader.
Oh, maybe we should.
Back to the Catcher bots. Well, as you can see, alternate looks a bit odd. And no, I don't mean the weird multicolored chains. You see, in the process of movie animation going from script to animation to broadcast, it takes years of production. Animation back in the 80s went from script to broadcast as little as 4 months. Because of that tight schedule, it prevented fixing errors in animation due to lack of time, which causes some odd scenes like Prime looking like he's joined the Blue Man group. But aside from those odd moments, the Autobots defeat the cons and they retreat. Following that, we go to the next episode, Fire on the Mountain. We see the Decepticons' next plan, stealing a crystal power from an Incan pyramid and building a giant laser from it. But after the Autobots follow Skyfire and with the help of an Incan woman named Lucia, and I hope I pronounced that right since they never said her name in the show, they managed to defeat the con and prevent the pyramid that was connected to the Earth's core from blowing up the planet, because Transformers. After that, we have the next episode, War of the Dinobots. After Chip contacts the Autobots about Mia crashing towards Earth, Prime decides to bring the Dinobots for backup.
Meanwhile, thousands of miles away,
Megatron is pissed that the Dinobots kicked their asses, and order Soundwave to find their weakness so they can take advantage of them. At the meteor's crash site, the bots grab a fragment of the meteorite so they can analyze it back to the base and have the Dinobots guard the meteor. No doubt to make sure that the Tree of Might is back. While they are experimenting on the fragment, Prime decides that Wheeljack and Ratchet should build more toys, more Dinobots, because reasons. Meanwhile, after Soundwave scans on Dinobots for their weaknesses, Megatron plans to use these said weaknesses to make the Dinobots betray Prime. While he tricks the bots into betraying Prime, the Autobots start building new Dinobots. Snarl, a Stegosaurus who wields a sword, and Swoop, a Pteranodon who has the ability to, fly. While that's happening, Wheeljack finds out that the meteorite energy is unstable and can blow up during seconds. Prime goes off to the meteorite while the bots finish building the dinos. Prime finds that the meteorite is missing and the Dinobots ambush and attack him. After a tough fight, the Dinobots take Prime prisoner to the Decepticons where they're harvesting the meteorite's energy. After Megatron realizes that the meteorite is unstable, the new Dinobots arrive to kick the asses of the previous Dinobots. During the fight, Prime saves Grimlock from the meteor explosion, and Grimlock reminds that the Decepticons are the baddies and scares them away. While each storyline is a bit standalone-ish, it all comes together with the three-parter, The Ultimate Doom. During the Khan's invasion of an Indian power station, Megatron, who teams up with a mad scientist named Dr. Ockerfield, commands Soundwave to kidnap one of the bots' human friends, which in case is Sparkplug. While Sparkplug is being held captive, the rejected Dr. Wily here installs a chip called a Hypno Chip that brainwashes Sparkplug and forces to attack a Prime replica with determination. Meanwhile, the Autobot sets up to rescue Sparkplug, while the team swims straight towards the Decepticon base as distraction. Another digs an underground tunnel into the base. They succeed in rescuing Sparkplug but are unaware of the Hypno Chip. At the Autobot base, while Sparkplug repairs the Autobots, the Decepticons launch an assault on the Autobot base. But as the bots try to fight back, their weapons short circuit and Spike finds out that not only Sparkplug has sabotaged Children 1, but the Khans are brainwashing him too. However, Spike is able to repair Children 1 and uses foam to force the Khan to retreat, but Sparkplug runs off with them. Later, the Khans are building a bigger space bridge, as Megatron explains to Ockerfield, it will bring the entire planet of Cybertron to Earth. Ockerfield says that insane and possibly the most realistic depiction of science in Transformers so far, because if Cybertron gets that close to Earth, it will cause earthquakes, tsunamis, etc. Megatron ignores that, of course, and only cares about the Earth's destruction will create energy to harvest, and plans to use the Man Doctor's Hypno Chip to create an army of slaves to collect energon cubes shipped from Earth. Meanwhile, as the bots investigate the bridge, the Khans sends in more slaves in similar casual clothing, weird, to attack the bots by whacking them with sticks.
Hey, this is not my scene!
As Spike tries to get his dad out of mind control, Shockwave and the other Khans, including Sparkplug, activate the pylon, which will unleash the base bridge. But as Prime tries to stop Megatron to activate the last pylon, Megatron tricks him to activating it itself, and thus Cybertron comes to Earth, and of course, the gravity goes crazy as it goes closer to Earth. So basically this is a plot of Majora's Mask, but with more lightning. As part 2 begins, the Earth goes nuts to both Khans and the bots, though Soundwave unleashes an auto-destructive wave that forces the bots to retreat. After Starscream calls Megatron out for letting the bots go, and then get kicked aside due to Zed calling out, Dr. Ockerfield starts upgrading the Hypno Chip since the Destructor Wave messes with the chip's signal range, but they need new material for it. And by new material, I mean kidnap 2 humans as guinea pigs. Meanwhile, the Autobots are having trouble driving through the thunderstorm, and Bumblebee tire breaks and Spike has to fix it. However, after that, an earthquake hits and B falls into the crater while Spike gets kidnapped by Laserbeak. Fortunately, the other Autobots save Spike and get B out of the crater. At the Khan's base, Megatron sends Sparkplug off to Cybertron, sparking a small feud between him and Ockerfield. At the bot's base, working on what to do with Mother Nature's migraine, Wheelchuck decides to send the Dinobots to handle the disasters. Now back to the cons. They're having trouble delivering the cubes to Cybertron with tidal waves nearly flooding the base. However, the bots have their own problems to deal with, since that the volcano that the base is on goes nuts. They get out, but somehow the rest get injected to the top of the volcano despite no possibilities on how that happened.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Skyfire saves them after that, and iHigh heads back to the base and stops the volcano by covering the hole. After seeing a Dinobot stopping the tidal wave, Prime and the others find that Sparkplug is on Cybertron. Spike wants to rescue him, and Wheelcheck, Bumblebee, and Skyfire wants to join in. Prime agrees, and Brawn, Trailblazer, and iHigh goes in as well. After landing on Cybertron, Spike falls into a trap, and Brawn and Bumblebee try to save him, but get separated from the rest. However, they find Shockwave's lab and learn about Hypnochips. While trying to contact Wheelcheck, Sparkplug finds out that they're here and sounds the alarm, ending part 2. Part 3 begins with Brawn and Bumblebee being surrounded by cons.
I don't suppose I could interest any of you in a magazine subscription?
I hear good things about Cybertron Weekly, or maybe you're interested in a Playbot. However, Skyfire bursts through the wall, Kool-Aid Man style, and fights off Shockwave so that the others can escape. As the bot is hiding in a factory, Bumblebee shows him a sort of laser disc thing, because it is, that contains data about the Hypnochip.
Meanwhile, thousands of miles away,
we see Prime and the other robots surfing. Sure, why not? That seems plausible. And you look on your right, you see Batman and the Joker hanging tight on a crappy green screen. At the Decepticon hydro generator that is under construction, Archivero is concerned that the generator is not stable enough and will break and his slaves will drown. Megatron, of course, does not care. When the Autobots arrive, they ride the tidal wave into the generator, but the Decepticons run off in their ship with the Energon cubes. But to show off that the Autobots are the good guys, they rescue the civilians first. However, Archivero is left behind, but is taken by Starscream. Back on Cybertron, Wheelcheck contacts Prime on the Hypnochip and creates a device on the way to save the brainwashed slaves. They test it on Sparkplug, which works, and he's free. After flying away to Cybertron, the cons are harvesting more Energon cubes on a nearby island, and the Autobots spy on them, with Mirage sneaking in to the ship. Megatron overhears Starscream, who still has Argyle, talking about backstabbing Megatron, so he tries to murder Scream, but gets distracted by Mirage, and Scream escapes with Argyle. Prime now ambushes the cons, and a fight breaks out, along with Skyfire and the others appearing freeing the slaves. Megatron decides to run off with it to a ship with the Energon cubes on it. The Autobots, trying to figure out how to get Cybertron out of Earth's orbit, figure out that a certain amount of Energon cubes can possibly trigger an explosion that can push Cybertron away from Earth, which leads the Autobots to open fire at Megatron's ship. It works, and Megatron possibly dies in the process. But with some reused animation, Cybertron moves away, and the day is saved once again. However, the conclusion ends with Megatron alive and wanting revenge.
The Transformers will return after these messages. We now return to the Transformers.
The Ultimate Doom is a great reporter. It definitely feels like it's calling to this moment and giving the characters some tough decisions, severing robots notwithstanding, and giving some good action along the way. While not the season finale, we do get 3 episodes left afterwards, starting with Countdown to Extinction. While the Autobots are rebuilding damaged cities, the Decepticons start arguing during the repair of their own base, with Megatron suddenly appearing to break the argument. They report that Starscream and Argyle are MIA, however Laserspeak sends a recording of the two, talking about going to Argyle's secret lab for a plan. Oh yeah, there's also a Decepticon named Frenzy which just rumbled with red and black without any explanation. We then see Starscream and Argyle entering into the secret lab.
Pull the lever, Kronk.
Starscream oversees an exponential generator that, when overcharged, can trigger an explosion that will destroy Earth. Starscream links a timer to it so that once it reaches zero, it will blow up Earth, as I said, so that he can salvage energy from the remains of Earth's destruction. The Mad Doctor doesn't like that, since he wants to take over Earth, not destroy it. But Starscream does not care and not willing to let Arkafel betray him, so he takes him off to Cybertron. Meanwhile, the Autobots detect the cons flying towards Arkafel's lab, so they follow him. A fight breaks out. On Cybertron, Starscream orders Shockwave to not do contact Earth. Arkafel tries to stop Scream, but gets electrocuted in the attempt, and Starscream orders the other cons to repair him. Back to the fight, the Autobots get trapped in quicksand by the cons, who leave, leaving Laserbeak behind to observe. Fortunately, they take down Laserbeak, changing him back to cassette mode, and Ironhide sprays some liquid nitrogen into the quicksand, setting the bots free. After listening to Laserbeak's recording, we come back to Cybertron, where we see that repairing him meant turning Arkaville to look cute as a Borg.
He's more machine now than man.
It's quite horrific to see that in a kids show in the 80s. Meanwhile, Shockwave secretly contacts Megatron, informing him about the timer, which Megatron then destroys and is ready to kill Starscream. Again, we see Starscream waiting for the kaboom before going back to Earth to see what's up. Megatron then tries to steal the generator, with Prime trying to stop him, but the fight causes the generator to go haywire, forcing him to shoot the generator out of space, which coincidentally hits Starscream. The bots leave, wondering what kind of punishment Megatron will give for Starscream, but now wondering, hey, what about that Arkafel guy? Yeah, we never see Arkafel ever again, but we know that he's now stuck as a cyborg for the rest of his life. Enjoy the existential horror, kids!
In the next episode, Plague of the Decepticons, reports from the island of Bali about a giant robot insect attacking and eating their food in the swamp makes the Autobots curious enough to investigate. However, the Decepticons fly to the swamp before them to investigate first. What they find is a Decepticon escape pod that came from their ship, showing that the insect robots are Decepticons adapting insect parts, becoming, well, Insecticons.
Insecticons! Transform!
The three Insecticons, Shrapnel, Bombshell, and Kickback, start devouring the village's cornfield, and the Autobots stop them, but then they reveal the trap card, making Molo duplicate themselves, which outnumbers the bots. And the Decepticons join in and try to finish them, but the rest of the bots arrive and fight back, forcing the two to retreat. The cons then invade a nearby oil refinery to steal some energy, and during that, the Decepticon Shrapnel takes control of Sideswipe and Sunstreaker to cause havoc. But Trailblazer sets up a force field to interrupt the control signal, and Insecticon escape back to the refinery. The Autobots reach the refinery, and Ironhide stops an oil ship being on fire. Then a thunderstorm arrives, giving Bombshell an opportunity by giving Shrapnel lightning powers to blast at the Autobots. However, Spike realizes that rubber on their tires will serve as insulation, making them resist the blast. After a failed attempt at blowing up the refinery and Trailblazer shutting down the Insecticon clones, the Insecticons decide to bail out, eating the remaining Energon cubes and running off, ending the episode. Our final episode for the night is Heavy Metal War. At a construction site, several vehicles start attacking, revealing themselves to be Constructicons, stealing some of the site's supplies. It's hinted at in the beginning that they are built by the Decepticons, which will be very confusing in the Season 2, but that's here or there. Anywho, the Constructicons, which are from left to right, Scavenger, Mixmaster, Long Haul, Bone Crusher, Hook, and Scrapper start setting up these stolen components to build a new machine for Megatron's new plan. Said plans are to enter the Autobot base and challenge Prime to a duel in accordance with Cybertronian law. The winner gets to stay on Cybertron, while the loser is forced to leave. Prime accepts since he follows the Cybertronian law. However, what the Autobots don't know is that the machine the Constructicons built will transfer the Decepticons' powers to Megatron so that he could cheat and win the fight. However, Starscream points out that Teletran will see through Megatron's cheating tactics, to which Megatron decides to have the Constructicons sneak into the Autobot base. The duel begins. Prime fights hard, but Megatron outnumbers him with all his powers he's gotten. During that, the Constructicons dig under the Autobot base and even finding some active lava, but Teletran 1 detects them and sends the Dinobots in. Back to the fight, Prime loses unfortunately, and they are forced to leave Earth. Back to the base, the Dinobots fly off the Constructicons, forcing them from the base. However, the Constructicons have a trick on their sleeves. They combine together into a bigger robot named Devastator. The Dinobots fight, but the Autobots can't fight without breaking the law until they find out that Megatron cheated, and they're all screw it and go help the Dinobots. They defeat the cons by tossing them into the lava, and despite that gruesome attempted murder, they're still alive after that. Season 1 on its own is a good start for the series. While it has some dated elements, and the animation is not a strong suit, it has some exciting moments for kids to enjoy, and the data aspect can be made fun of for riffing material. On exploring the themes of the show, whether it is intentional or not, there is an overall theme of power and wanting more. You got the Decepticons who steals and harvests energy to gain more power, and Megatron wanting power too, that corrupts his own judgment, that makes mistakes and does not acknowledge them. Then you got Starscream, who tries to backstab Megatron so he can gain the power of leadership, but because of his own incompetence and stupidity, it screws over the cons more than it helps. And on the Autobot side, they want to not gain power, but to protect Earth. And I don't mean a save the environment kind of thing. What I mean is that since they lost the planet, they do anything to protect their new home, Earth, and humans from harm. I don't really know. For a show that has the tagline "Robots in Disguise," the Transformers don't really hide themselves well. Even when people look at the Autobots, they're all like, "Oh look, an alien robot, that's awesome." The characters are very one-note, not much development or personality, although that might change quickly in Season 2. Oh boy, that was fun. Hope you guys liked my first video, and if you guys want to see more of these types of things, you can like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter for some updates and such. I also have a DeviantArt account for some fancy art, and if you want to support me on Patreon for as low as $1, you also feel free to share some ideas for future Retrospective Historia in the comments. Well, that's all for now. See you soon.